We all carry weight, memories, regrets, fears that slow us down. But what if I told you the real strength is not in holding on, but in letting go? Today, we learn from Shi Heng Yi, whose wisdom reveals that letting go is not the end of something. It's the beginning of freedom. There is a common belief that strength is measured by how tightly we hold on, whether to relationships, dreams, or identities we once had. People will tell you, don't give up, no matter what. And yes, perseverance has its place, but there is a hidden danger in holding on for too long. There comes a point when holding on no longer shows strength. It becomes the very thing that stops your growth. Imagine you are in the middle of a river, holding onto a branch on the bank. At first, that branch is safety. It stops you from being swept away by the current. But what if you are meant to travel downstream? What if there is a whole new land waiting for you, and the only way to reach it is to let go? If you cling to that branch forever, you will stay in the same place, watching the water pass you by, never experiencing what could be. Shi Heng Yi teaches that life is movement. Holding on to the wrong things is like refusing to take a step forward. You may feel safe in the familiar, but safety can quickly turn into stagnation. It's like a bird staying in a cage because it fears the open sky. The cage feels comfortable because it is known, but comfort is not the same as freedom. We often cling out of fear of change, fear of loss, fear of being wrong. We tell ourselves that if we hold on a little longer, things might return to the way they once were. But this hope often keeps us trapped in situations that have already run their course. The truth is, not everything in life is meant to last forever. Some chapters are meant to close so that new ones can begin. Think about this: if your hands are full of old things, how can you pick up something new? You cannot receive what life has for you if you are too busy gripping what it's trying to take away. Holding on to the past, to old identities, to failed dreams. These are like carrying heavy stones in a backpack. The longer you carry them, the more they weigh you down. At first, you might not notice. But as time passes, each step feels heavier until you can barely move forward at all. Letting go does not mean you failed. It means you are wise enough to recognize that some things no longer serve your journey. The tree does not cry when it lets go of its leaves in autumn. It understands that this is part of the cycle of life. The same is true for you. There is a time to hold on, and there is a time to release. The challenge is that letting go requires trust. Trust that you will be okay without what you are clinging to. Trust that something better is waiting. Trust that life's flow will carry you where you are meant to go. When you hold on, you resist the natural flow. When you let go, you align yourself with it. There is a story of a man who tried to save himself from drowning by holding on to a large rock at the bottom of a river. He thought it would give him stability, but the rock kept him trapped under the water, and he was running out of breath. It was only when he opened his hands and pushed himself away from the rock that he floated up and broke through to the surface. Many people live exactly like that, holding on to something that is pulling them under, thinking it's their lifeline, when in truth, it's the reason they are suffocating. If you find yourself stuck, ask, what am I holding on to that is holding me back? It might be a person, a job, a habit, or even a version of yourself that you've outgrown. It might be a grudge you've been carrying for years, thinking it protects you from being hurt again, when in reality, it only keeps you in pain. Letting go is an act of strength because it requires you to face uncertainty. It's easier to hold on to what you know, even if it's hurting you. But strength lies in being brave enough to release the familiar and step into the unknown. You cannot climb higher if you are still gripping the rung of the ladder below you. The moment you let go, you feel lighter, not because your circumstances change instantly, but because your heart is no longer chained to the past. You create space for new opportunities, new relationships, and new growth. You move from a place of resistance to a place of flow. Shi Heng Yi often reminds us that the greatest journeys in life begin when we are willing to drop what no longer serves us. So take a deep breath, open your hands, and trust that the space you create by letting go will be filled with something better. Stop letting what you hold on to be the reason you can't move forward. Your future is waiting, but it cannot meet you until you release the weight that is keeping you in place. Growth is not just about adding more to your life. It is also about removing what no longer serves you. Shi Heng Yi teaches that just as a gardener prunes a tree to help it grow taller and healthier, you must prune your own life. Sometimes, growth does not happen because there is no space for it. You cannot fill a full cup, and you cannot plant new seeds in soil that is already crowded with weeds. When you let go, you create space. Space for new experiences, space for new relationships, space for new dreams. Many people ask for change, yet they refuse to release what is holding them in place. They say, I want to grow, but they carry the same old habits, the same limiting beliefs, the same toxic attachments, and then they wonder why nothing changes. Life is like a river. It wants to flow, But if you build a dam of fear, resentment, or clinging, the water becomes stagnant. The moment you let go, the water moves again, and with it comes new opportunities and fresh energy. Without space, there can be no movement, and without movement, there can be no growth. Think of a potted plant. If the pot is too small, the roots cannot spread, and the plant stops growing. It may still survive, but it will never reach its full potential. The moment you place it in a larger pot, with more space for its roots to expand, it flourishes. In the same way, if you keep your life confined to the same patterns and attachments, you limit your own growth. Letting go is the act of breaking the old pot so that your roots can stretch into new possibilities. Some people resist letting go because they confuse it with loss. But in truth, you are not losing, you are exchanging. You are trading what is limiting you for what can liberate you. You are giving up the small to make room for the great. You are releasing the old chapter so the new one can be written. This requires faith in the unseen. You must believe that the space you create will be filled with something better, even before you can see it. In nature, when a forest burns, it may seem like devastation, but that empty space, that cleared ground, becomes fertile for new life to grow, life that could not have existed if the old had not been cleared away. Sometimes the hardest part is deciding what to let go of. We become so used to carrying certain things that they feel like part of who we are. But ask yourself, does this bring me closer to the person I want to become, or does it keep me tied to who I used to be? If it is the latter, it is time to release it. Shi Heng Yi reminds us that holding on to the past is like wearing clothes that no longer fit. You may have loved them once, but now they restrict your movement. You can try to stretch and adjust them, but they will never allow you the freedom that comes from wearing something that fits who you are today. The same is true for relationships, mindsets, and even personal goals. If they no longer fit your growth, they must be released. Letting go also teaches humility. It reminds you that you are not in control of everything, and that is okay. You do not have to force everything to stay the same. You do not have to grip life so tightly that nothing can move. When you loosen your hold, life can rearrange itself in ways you never imagined. Creating space for growth is also about clearing mental and emotional clutter. We often think of growth as an external process, learning new skills, achieving more, gaining new experiences. But internal growth is just as important. If your mind is crowded with resentment, self-doubt, and overthinking, there is no room for clarity, peace, or inspiration. By letting go of those mental weights, you allow new thoughts, new perspectives, and new levels of understanding to enter. Imagine walking into a room filled from floor to ceiling with boxes. There is no place to move, no place to sit, no place to bring anything new inside. Now imagine removing those boxes one by one. At first, the space feels strange, empty, but soon that emptiness feels like freedom. You can breathe, you can move, you can bring in exactly what you need and nothing more. This is what letting go does for your life. It gives you the freedom to choose what truly belongs there. Growth is not always comfortable. The process of letting go may feel like losing a part of yourself, but in truth, you are making space to find a greater version of yourself. You are allowing the new to enter. You are inviting possibility. So ask yourself today, what am I holding on to that is taking up the space my growth needs? It could be a habit, a fear, or even a comfort zone that has kept you safe but stagnant. Release it. Make space. Allow life to surprise you with what it brings next. Because just as the sky cannot be filled with stars until the sun sets, your life cannot be filled with new light until you let the old fade away. Before you can let go of anything in life, whether it is pain, regret, or a chapter that has ended, you must first accept that it is what it is. Shi Heng Yi teaches that without acceptance, there can be no real freedom. Because as long as you resist reality, you remain trapped in a battle you cannot win. Acceptance is not weakness. It is not surrendering your dreams or giving up on life. It is the clear-eyed acknowledgement of the truth in front of you. It is saying, yes, this happened. Yes, this is how things are right now. And now that I see it clearly, I can decide my next step. The problem is that many people mistake denial for hope. They cling to the idea that if they refuse to accept something, it might somehow change. They avoid the truth because they fear the pain it will bring. But denying reality only prolongs the suffering. Pain is a natural part of life. But suffering is what happens when you refuse to face the truth. Imagine being lost in a forest. If you deny where you are, if you refuse to admit that you are lost, you cannot find your way out. Acceptance is like opening your eyes and saying, this is my position. Once you know where you are, you can chart a course forward. Without it, you wander in circles. Many people resist acceptance because they confuse it with approval. They think, if I accept this, it means I'm okay with it. But that is not true. You can accept a situation without agreeing with it. You can acknowledge that something happened without saying it was right or fair. Acceptance simply means you stop wasting energy on wishing it were different and start putting that energy into deciding what to do next. Shi Heng Yi often speaks about the difference between a calm lake and a stormy one. If you throw a stone into a calm lake, the ripples are clear and ordered, but if the water is already turbulent, the ripples disappear into chaos. Acceptance is like calming the waters of your mind so that you can see clearly. Without it, every action you take will be clouded by frustration, denial, and emotional noise. Acceptance also requires humility. It means admitting that you cannot control everything, that some things in life are simply beyond your reach. This is difficult for the human ego, which wants to believe it can bend the world to its will. But the truth is, there is great freedom in knowing what you can control and what you cannot. You can control your actions, your attitude, your mindset, but you cannot control the past and you cannot control the decisions of others. The power of acceptance lies in shifting your focus. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? You begin to ask, given that this has happened, what can I do now? This shift turns you from a victim of circumstances into the author of your own next chapter. It is also important to understand that acceptance is not a one-time event. You may need to remind yourself of it daily, sometimes even moment by moment. For example, when grief comes, you may think you have accepted it, only to find waves of resistance return. That's okay. Acceptance is a practice, just like training the body or the mind. Each time you return to it, you strengthen your ability to face reality with courage. Think of a martial artist facing an opponent. If the opponent lands a strike, the martial artist does not waste time saying, "This should not have happened." Instead, they accept it immediately and adjust their stance for the next move. Life works the same way. The faster you accept what has happened, the faster you can adapt and respond with strength. Without acceptance, letting go becomes impossible, because you cannot release something that you have not fully faced. You cannot heal from a wound you refuse to acknowledge. The first step to freedom is saying, "This is what is." And once you have done that, you can finally choose what comes next. So if you are carrying pain, regret, or resistance today, stop for a moment and breathe. Look at your life as it truly is, not as you wish it to be. Let the truth settle in, not to break you, but to ground you. Because once you are rooted in reality, you can begin to rise. Shi Heng Yi reminds us, the first step of mastery is acceptance. You cannot shape what you do not see clearly. See your life clearly, accept it, and then take your first step forward, lighter and stronger than before. There is a weight heavier than any stone you could carry, and it rests not on your shoulders, but in your heart. That weight is the burden of unforgiveness, towards others and towards yourself. Shi Heng Yi teaches that this weight is invisible to the eye, but it drains your energy, clouds your mind, and holds you back from moving forward. The moment you forgive, it is as if chains fall away and you are free to breathe deeply again. Forgiveness is not about saying that what happened was okay. It is not about forgetting, and it is not about pretending you were not hurt. Forgiveness is about choosing not to let the pain control you any longer. It is the decision to cut the cord between yourself and the event or person that caused the hurt. Without this cut, you carry them with you everywhere, even into moments of joy, even into your future. When you hold on to resentment, it is like holding a hot coal in your hand, hoping it will burn the other person. In reality, you are only burning yourself. You may believe you are protecting yourself by holding on, but in truth, you are only keeping the wound open, never allowing it to heal. Shi Heng Yi reminds us that forgiveness is an act of self-liberation. It is not something you do for the other person. It is something you do for yourself. When you forgive, you are saying, "I refuse to let this pain define me any longer. I choose peace over bitterness. I choose my future over my past." This applies not only to forgiving others, but also to forgiving yourself. Many people are trapped not by what someone else has done, but by what they themselves have done, or failed to do. They replay their mistakes endlessly, as if punishing themselves will somehow change the past. But the past is fixed. You cannot rewrite it. What you can rewrite is the meaning you give it. Self-forgiveness is not about excusing your mistakes. It is about learning from them and releasing the self-hatred that keeps you small. If you truly regret something, then let your regret be the fuel for your growth, not the prison that traps you. You are not the same person you were when you made those choices. You have grown. You have more wisdom now, and wisdom is meant to be used, not buried under shame. Forgiveness is also an essential step in letting go. Without it, you may believe you have moved on, but the moment something reminds you of the past, the wound reopens. This is because the anger, resentment, or guilt is still there, waiting beneath the surface. Forgiveness cleanses it. It removes the hidden poison from your system. It is important to understand that forgiveness is a process. It may not happen all at once. Sometimes, you have to forgive in layers, each day letting go a little more until the weight is finally gone. You may feel moments of peace followed by moments of anger. That's okay. Just as a physical wound takes time to heal, so does an emotional one. What matters is that you keep choosing forgiveness over and over until it becomes your natural state. Forgiveness also requires courage. It is far easier to hold on to anger because anger feels like power. But in reality, it is a false power. It drains you instead of fueling you. True power comes from having the strength to release the anger and replace it with understanding. Not understanding that excuses the wrong, but understanding that allows you to move beyond it. Think of a bird caught in a net. It flaps its wings desperately, thinking the more it fights, the sooner it will be free. But the net only tightens. The bird is only freed when the net is cut. In your life, resentment and guilt are the net. Forgiveness is the blade that cuts you loose. Some people will resist forgiving because they think it means letting the other person win. But this is not a competition. Your life is not a game to be won or lost. It is a journey to be lived fully. If holding on to the pain is keeping you from living, then forgiveness is your victory. Shi Heng Yi says, the one who forgives is the one who is free. And when you are free, you can step into the present moment without dragging the past behind you. You can love more deeply, live more openly, and grow without the shadow of old wounds. So today, ask yourself, who do I need to forgive? And do not forget to add your own name to that list. You have suffered long enough. You have carried the weight far enough. It is time to put it down. Let forgiveness be the key that unlocks the door to your own freedom. Step through it, and you will discover a lighter heart, a clearer mind, and a future that is finally open to you. If there is one truth in life that you cannot escape, it is this: everything changes. The seasons change, the tides change, the phases in your life change. Even you, your body, your mind, your thoughts, are in a state of constant transformation. Shi Heng Yi teaches that resisting this truth is like trying to hold back the ocean with your hands. You can try, but the waves will always find their way through. Life is movement. To live is to change, to grow, to evolve. Yet many people suffer because they try to make permanent what was never meant to be permanent. They want relationships to stay the same forever. They want circumstances to remain predictable. They want time to stand still when life feels good and to fast forward when it feels painful. But life is not built on our preferences. It is built on cycles. Look at nature. The tree does not fight to keep its leaves in autumn. It lets them fall because it trusts spring will come again. The river does not cling to the water that passes through it. It flows without fear of emptiness because it knows more water is on the way. Change is not a threat. It is the natural rhythm of life. The pain of change comes not from the change itself, but from our attachment to how things used to be. We fear the unknown because we have not yet experienced its gifts. We cling to the familiar, even when it no longer serves us, because it feels safer than stepping into uncertainty. But as Shi Heng Yi reminds us, a comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. Think about the times you have grown the most in your life. Were they times of perfect stability, when everything went exactly as planned? Or were they times when life pushed you into the unknown, when you had to adapt, learn, and rise to a challenge? Growth rarely comes when you are comfortable. It comes when you are forced to shed the old version of yourself and step into a new one. Change also teaches impermanence, and impermanence teaches value. You only appreciate a sunrise because you know it will not last. You treasure a moment with a loved one because you know time will eventually carry you in different directions. If life never changed, moments would lose their meaning. The fragility of time is what makes it precious. The key is to stop fighting change and instead learn to move with it. This does not mean you have to like every change that happens, but it does mean accepting that change is inevitable. Once you accept this, you stop wasting energy resisting it and start using that energy to adapt. Adaptability is strength. A rigid tree will snap in the storm, but a flexible tree bends and survives. In the same way, if you remain too fixed in your expectations, life's storms will break you. But if you are willing to bend, to flow, to adjust your course when needed, no storm can destroy you. Shi Heng Yi often compares life to martial arts training. A fighter who insists on using the same technique for every opponent will eventually be defeated. But a fighter who can adapt their strategy to the situation will always have an advantage. Life works the same way. When you adapt, you win. Of course, change is not always easy. It often requires letting go of people, places, habits, and even parts of your own identity. It can feel like a small death, the closing of a chapter. But every ending is also a beginning. Every time something leaves your life, space is made for something new to enter. This is why letting go and embracing change are deeply connected. They are both acts of trust. Trust that life knows what it is doing, even when you do not. Trust that the challenges you face in times of change are shaping you into a stronger version of yourself. Trust that, just as winter turns to spring, your difficult seasons will give way to brighter days. When you resist change, you get stuck. Your body moves forward in time, but your mind stays trapped in the past. You replay what was instead of living what is. But when you embrace change, you allow yourself to experience the beauty of each new chapter as it comes. So ask yourself, where in my life am I resisting change? It might be a change that has already happened, but you have not yet accepted. Or it might be a change you know is coming, but you fear facing it. Remember this, whether you resist it or embrace it, change will come. The difference is that resisting it causes suffering, while embracing it creates growth. Life is constant change. This is not something to fear, it is something to honor, because it means that no matter where you are today, you are not stuck, you are evolving, you are becoming, and each change is another step toward the person you are meant to be. Shi Heng Yi says, if you flow with life, you will move with its power. If you fight life, you will fight its power, so flow. Trust the tides, and let the rhythm of change carry you to new horizons. To let go fully, you must be willing to step into a place where you cannot yet see the outcome. This is the hardest part for many. The space after you release the old, but before the new has arrived. It is in this space that fear often speaks the loudest. Shi Heng Yi teaches that this is where true inner strength is forged, because trusting the unknown is an act of deep courage. Most people prefer certainty. They like to know what comes next, to have clear paths and guarantees. But the truth is, life offers very few guarantees. Every day is an act of trust. When you wake up in the morning, you do not know exactly what the day will bring, yet you rise. When you begin a journey, you cannot see every step ahead, yet you walk. This is trust in motion. The unknown is not your enemy. It is your greatest ally for growth, because within it lies possibility. Think of the most meaningful events in your life. Chances are, many of them began in uncertainty. A new job you weren't sure you could handle. A relationship you didn't know would last. A dream you didn't know how to achieve. Yet you stepped forward, and life met you halfway. Fear of the unknown is natural, but fear is simply the mind's way of protecting you from imagined danger. It looks into the dark forest of the future and whispers, what if something goes wrong? But what it often forgets to ask is, what if something goes right? What if the unknown is not a trap but a doorway? Shi Heng Yi often says, the mind loves the familiar, but the soul loves expansion. The familiar feels safe, but it is also limited. If you want to experience more wisdom, more opportunities, more life, you must be willing to walk beyond the borders of what you know. The unknown is where your potential lives. Trusting the unknown is not about blind faith. It is about confident openness. It is about believing that, no matter what comes, you have the strength, the adaptability, and the resilience to meet it. It's not that the path will always be easy. It's that you will always be capable of walking it. Imagine standing at the edge of a foggy road. You can only see the first few steps ahead. If you refuse to move until the entire road is visible, you will never take a step. But if you trust and take the steps you can see, the road will reveal itself as you walk. That is how the unknown works. It unfolds only when you move toward it. Letting go and trusting the unknown go hand in hand. When you release the old, you create space. When you trust the unknown, you allow that space to be filled with something new. Without trust, the space feels empty and frightening. With trust, the space feels like freedom and opportunity. It's important to remember that the unknown is not truly empty. It is simply unshaped. It is clay waiting for your hands. It is a blank page waiting for your story. And just because you cannot see what is coming does not mean it is not good. Many of life's greatest blessings are the ones you did not see coming. There will be moments when the unknown feels uncomfortable. You may feel like you are in midair between two cliffs, with no solid ground beneath you. But these are the moments that transform you. They strip away the illusion of control and force you to rely on your inner resources. This is where you discover your true power. Trusting the unknown also means trusting yourself. Trust that you will make the right decisions when the time comes. Trust that you will learn from mistakes rather than be destroyed by them. Trust that you are not walking alone. Life itself is walking with you. Shi Heng Yi teaches that when you resist the unknown, you shrink. But when you embrace it, you expand. Every step into uncertainty builds your courage. Every risk you take, every leap you make, strengthens your belief that you can handle whatever lies ahead. So the next time you face the unknown, remember this: you have been here before. Every day of your life, you have faced moments where you did not know what would happen, and you survived. More than that, you grew, and you will grow again. The unknown is not a void. It is a canvas. It is where dreams are painted, opportunities are born, and new chapters begin. Step into it with an open heart, and you may find that what awaits you is far greater than anything you ever planned. Shi Heng Yi says, the leap into the unknown is not a fall. It is a flight. Let go. Trust. Spread your wings. The sky is waiting. When you let go, you don't lose. You make space for better things to arrive. Life rewards the hands that are open, not clenched. Remember this: the past is a place of learning, not living. Release it, trust the journey ahead, and walk forward lighter, stronger, and ready to conquer.